David's podcast. David's podcast is guests. Your fun time.
Thank you so much for the visit to especially Grace History and History of Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 41st episode of David's Podcast. And I'm your host, David Solowar. And welcome to Inside this beautiful radio station of Last Radio and Inside this beautiful campus of Pasadena City College. As I tell my guys, race for a visit, it's a beautiful day in Los Angeles, especially cloudy, and especially it was warmer this week, but it's a beautiful day outside, especially cool skies, cool weather. Back to game. I'm waiting to get good guys with you. Time 5, 6, 11, and at the same time, I usually say have it Friday myself, but my co-host is on the weather again. However, I'm in good hands with my favorite kids, especially Ricky Joe, Gabby Joe, are back co-hosting Gaby's podcast, and Ricky Joe, Gabby Joe, welcome back as co-host. Gabby, have us back. As co-hosting your show on Gaby's podcast for episode 41, especially with our guest Danielle, and it will be a lot of fun. Yes, it will be a lot of fun, Gaby. I can't wait. So, Gaby, let's get the show started. All right, back to you, Gaby. Thank you, Ricky Joe. And ladies and gentlemen, she's been on the podcast twice, especially she's a girlfriend of the show, and she's the librarian. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to Gaby's podcast, which hopefully I'll get her last name correct, especially I was awful too, and welcome back to Gaby's podcast, Danielle Raque. Danielle, welcome back.
Thank you, David. Thank you for inviting me back. And you got it right, Danielle Raque.
Yes, I finally did. I finally got Danielle's last name right, especially episode 48. I butchered it, and I avoided all three. Thank you, Danielle.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, third time is a charm. And are you ready for the topic set questions? Well, I'll put you back on the hot seat.
I'm ready.
All right, so here we go, Danielle. Your first topic is books, and your first question is, what new books have you read while working in a library?
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, I work at PCC Library as a librarian. I've been there since 2017, and part of my role there is actually buying books for the library. So I get to see a lot of the new titles that are coming through. This semester, I've been really focused on my research that I'm doing for my classes and for my program. So I've been reading a lot of scholarly journals, not as many books, but I did bring with me some books I wanted to share that are available for checkout at PCC Library. So these are some brand new books that we've got in. The very first one that I want to share is called Kings and Pawns, Jackie Robinson and Paul Robeson in America. So this is one of our most famous PCC alum, Jackie Robinson, featured in this book. And I'm going to hand that off to David so that he can share that with you all. So that's available for checkout at our new arrivals.
Yes, this is a book by from Jackie Robinson. Like Danielle just said, Jackie Robinson, he attended PCC before the Dodgers, and Jackie Robinson, he's a PCC alum, and everyone check out this book. If you're PCC, and Ricky Joe, give you Ricky Joe, you go first. Danielle, can you tell us a little more about the book and how Jackie Robinson became a big player when he graduated from PCC before the Dodgers?
Yeah, I mean, his legacy is so, I think, profound, especially because Jackie Robinson was the first Major League Baseball player to break the color barrier. So he, I think had a lot of influence in the direction that teams went in later on, and they stopped segregating. For Pasadena in general, I think, it's just such a legacy, not just him, but also his brother Mac Robinson have in our community, and it's wonderful. This book particularly, it kind of focuses on more of that integration process and focuses on some of the kind of social justice work that he did, and being involved with different organizations, trying to progress, more equity, more involvement and inclusion of everybody in the Major League Baseball team that he was involved in.
He was.
Yeah. So that one is one that just came out this year. So this is from this year, 2026. Nice. The next one I want to share is actually another topic that I think is really timely and important. This one is banning books in America. So there have been a unprecedented amount of legislation passed in the United States, in not so much California, but in other states especially, regarding book banning, really trying to make intellectual freedom and access to information that's important harder for people to get, because they are making lists of books that shouldn't be in libraries. And a lot of those books are books that have to do with topics like LGBT topics, or perhaps they're, even talking about different people's cultures or ethnicities. And these lists that people are bringing to these libraries, they're asking for them to pull these books from, the libraries. And when the libraries resist that, because our philosophy is that people should have access to the information that they want, people then go to their local legislation. So whether that be school boards, or they're going to maybe their local governments. And so then they are taking the library staff directly to task. There has been librarians that have even been prosecuted or arrested for certain information that they've had in their library because they refuse to follow some of these book bans. So this book, again, another one that's out for 2026, that's now available for checkout at PCC Library.
Yes, everyone check out this book in PCC Library, especially giving all people were prosecuted, especially arrested for doing crimes that committed, especially Danielle just mentioned, and check out this book if you're in a PCC Library.
Yeah, and I would also add that PCC Library has not banned any books.
No, so we're going to have it.
We have not banned any books.
No, we haven't.
The next one that I want to highlight is in honor of May. This month is Asian American History Month, and or Asian American and Pacific Islander History Month. And this one is called Superfan, and this book is a fiction book, so it's a novel, and it's just kind of a young adult fiction, girly romance novel, but it really, I think, could be something that anyone would enjoy if you're into reading young adult fiction. It's actually been pretty popular. I believe this one's already been checked out, and we just got it not too long ago, and we received it back, and I see quite a few people actually take a look at it when it's on display, so I thought I'd bring this one by as well. So here's Superfan.
Superfan, everyone. It's busy here on Gary's podcast, and if you want to also check out this book, also check out this book in the PCC Library. Okay, you have a question? Yes. Can you tell us who's the author of this book, and what inspired the author to write the book?
So the author for this book is Jenny Zhang, and I'm not too sure about her inspiration for writing the book. However, when we take a look at her profile in the back of the book, it does say that she has received a number of novelist awards, including something from the National Book Foundation for one of the honorees. Also a Carnegie Medal for excellence in fiction. So she probably just has such a strong passion for writing and wanting to tell stories that are meaningful to her, like a lot of authors do. So, yeah, that's Superfan, everybody.
It is.
And the next one that I have is called Do More in 4.
Wow.
So this is a book that is a nonfiction. So it is a book that is asking and posing the question about how many days a week people should be working. So, the average work week is 5 days a week. I think that's pretty much our society accepts 5 days a week. It didn't always used to be 5 days a week, right? There was a lot of labor movements that contributed to a 5-day work week where we're at now. But there's kind of a new movement of collective hope. I'll say right now because I
Hope.
think that's what it is, a hope and a dream,
Yes.
that people want to see a shorter work week. So this is Do More with 4, why it's time for a shorter work week. So the PCC library, we don't just have fiction novels, we also have a lot of nonfiction. A lot of our students are doing research on issues in society that have, multiple angles of perspective, pros and cons. And so we try to find information that will support them when they're exploring these topics for their research.
Nice.
And then the last one that I have, because I
Last
wanted to
one.
bring one that I've actually read that I do want to recommend. So this is one of my favorite books that we have in our fiction section. It's called The Madonnas of Echo Park. And it is a collection of short stories by Brando Skyhorse. And it follows a few different people. So they're all different stories about people who live in Los Angeles. And it really focuses on more like working class people and
Right.
their life stories and some of the challenges, barriers that they face, but also some of the wins, the community that they share, the passion and love that they have for themselves, their family, their communities. And also navigating gentrification. So Echo Park is a neighborhood that Los Angeles has seen change quite a bit, right? This book actually came out, let's see here, what the copyright year is. So this one's from 2010. So definitely it was experiencing gentrification at that point. But even post 2010, there's been a lot of changes to that neighborhood. And so this book really kind of follows some of those perspectives of the change that's happening in Echo Park.
Yes, the history of Echo Park in his book, everyone. Especially, she's correct. Especially, Echo Park has been seeing a lot of changes since 2010, and his book tells the story.
Yeah, so thank you for allowing me to bring some books from the library that are available for checkout. So if anyone's interested, see us at the reference desk and we can help you locate these and help you get those checked out if you're interested.
Yes, make sure you do have the opportunity to check on the books. All right, now we go for question 1 to the second question. Danielle is, what is your favorite book so far during the spring semester?
Actually, there is a book that we don't have at the library that I have read that's probably been my favorite so far. I'm currently reading the memoir of Lena Dunham. She's a television writer. It's her second book. Her book is called Fame Sick. So she is writing about her life, and she kind of focuses about when she was only 24 and
Wow.
she received a contract to produce her own television show on HBO, which is called Girls. And that show has such a strong, cultural impact. Even now, it's a show that gets rewatched a lot and referenced in pop culture, social media a lot. And her memoir has been really interesting, and just kind of reading about how she navigated that time and her fame that she rose to in her early 20s, and how she navigated kind of the changes with her family. She has a brother who is trans, and she talks about their relationship and how that's evolved over time. And she also kind of talks about her experiences with different actors and living in Hollywood after she gets her show. So yeah, it's kind of a fun read that I'm still not 100% done, so I can't say everything that it's about, but so far that's what I've got out of it.
Nice. All right. It's your turn now. Danielle, have you ever met her before reading a book or not reading a book?
No, I haven't. That would be fun. And I know she actually went on a book tour not too long ago, so she's been doing a lot of press recently. But no, I haven't.
But maybe one day you will love to meet her.
Yeah, maybe one day that'd be fun.
All right, so hopefully she's watching this podcast. All right, now we go to our second topic, Danielle, is research project. Which your third question is, can you tell us your upcoming research project you're working on and traveling for 1 year?
Yeah, so thank you for asking about that. I know we've kind of chatted recently about that. So in this coming academic year, so starting in July, I'll be taking a year off from here at PCC. And that year away, I'm going to be focusing on my doctoral project or my doctoral research. My research is focused in the ways that Latino students use their community college libraries. So the reason that I'm pursuing this research is because in the scholarly literature, or where a lot of library professionals and industry professionals kind of discuss how people use the library and how they navigate the library, oftentimes that research is based in four-year institutions, so like universities, also, just like four-year colleges, like maybe a UCLA, for instance. But a lot of it doesn't focus on community college students, which we know are navigating a different landscape when they're in community college. They're dealing with different issues, and I think it'd be important to learn more about what it means to be in service to those students and what they need and what they want to see in their library, or how do they perceive the space. So that's what my research is going to explore. So during that year, I will be conducting my study, hopefully in the fall. There's a bit of a process before that, but hopefully I'll be conducting that study with some students here at PCC and asking them about their use of the library so I can include them in my study. And I'll be writing my dissertation, which is a 5-chapter research project.
Wow.
Usually, it's a really long process. There's a lot of writing and editing, revisions, and you have a whole committee of faculty who are reviewing your work and critiquing your work. And, they want you to publish something that the institution's proud of. They want your research to be credible, and they will definitely be giving me feedback and helping me with the process, but also holding me to a high standard of academic value. So I am really looking forward to the challenge of doing that, and I'll be starting my writing this summer for that project.
Nice. Maybe Jarrell, go ahead. Can you give us a preview of how long you've been writing and how long this been in the works?
Yeah, thanks for your question.
Danielle.
It's been in the works about 2 years. So I have been doing this doctoral program that I'm in. I'm in a program that's for educational policy and organizational leadership. So that'll be my doctorate will be of a doctorate of education. Been working on that for about 2 years. And my program is allowing me a lot of flexibility to explore what aspect of education I want to do research in. So my interests are focused, of course, in higher education because, I work for a college. And then as a librarian, I'm very interested in how people use and navigate libraries. And for myself, I was, a first-generation Latina community college student. And for me, as somebody who is working on a doctoral degree, I have a master's degree, I have a bachelor's degree, and I have a community college degree. And for me, my associate's degree, I would say, was more challenging than getting the master's degree in different ways. So maybe the material or the information is more complex, but with community college, there's so many things you don't know until you find out. And navigating that space when you don't have maybe family members or mentors that are kind of helping you navigate can make it a lot more of a challenging experience. So again, that's kind of why I'm focused on my research with community college students, because I know when you are attending community college, you have there's so many backgrounds of students that are, in need of, I think they're in need of spaces that welcome them and provide good service to them and provide, and particularly for the library, information that they need. So, that's, I think, long story short, it's been about 2 years I've been working on that research, and I'm really looking forward to getting deeper into it.
And I'm looking forward to speaking with all things. Now that leads to my fourth question is, What are you looking for to this project?
I am going to be especially looking forward to the phase called coding. So in my research that I'll be doing, I intend to have kind of discussions like we're doing, and actually kind of like what we're doing, they'll be recorded. And the reason why these discussions that I'll be having for my research will be recorded is so that way I will be very intentionally listening to the transcripts of them. And when you're doing your research, you will do kind of like a coding with your data. And the data in this case would be the information that the students choose to share with me during the interviews. And so I'm really looking forward to discovering what themes emerge from having those interviews. Like, I want to know what are students saying that are similar to one another, and maybe also things that they're not saying that are similar, like what kind of stands out to different people and what's important to them about using the library. Or I'm very interested to know like what information will come from the research. And I think at that phase, kind of putting it together into different themes and kind of seeing where there's overlap or where there's some outline answers really intrigues me.
All right, Rick, can you know how many people are going to for this project, and what kind of challenges do you expect for this project?
Yeah, so there should probably be about maybe 10 to 12 people participating.
Wow.
And that can change because, my committee of faculty who are advising me, they may recommend that I change that number. But for right now, it should be about that amount of people. And I think some of the barriers that can happen, even though it doesn't sound like, too many people, sometimes you can have a hard time getting people to commit to a project if they're unfamiliar with what you're doing. So for me, I don't see it as a huge barrier, but I do think that it could be a challenge to find folks who are willing to be vulnerable and share their experiences, knowing that it's going to be part of the research. But on the other side of that, we do have a lot of protections for people who are involved in the research. So, for instance, anyone that's doing an interview with me, their name would not be used in the research. They would get a pseudonym whenever they're mentioned in the research, and there wouldn't be like identifying details about them. So that way, they're able to be transparent and know that their privacy is of high importance to me.
Nice. All right, now we go to our last topic here on Gamers Podcast. Topic number 3, tips to be successful in college. And your favorite question, Danielle, is what tips can you give upcoming students to be successful in college?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that.
Anytime, Danielle.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I have a few degrees, so I've been there, and through actually all of those degrees that I mentioned earlier, I've always worked full time while attending school. Most of the time, attending full time. So I definitely say for me, one of the first things is time management is so important, particularly if you're an online student or you take online classes. For me, I had to take online classes even before pre-COVID. I was taking online classes like in 2011 when there wasn't as many online classes, and just because I worked during the day when the classes in person were, I couldn't go. So for me, when I was doing online classes and it was fully up to me to engage with the coursework and the modules, setting aside time, just like if I was going to go to class. So it would be like, Tuesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. I'm in class, even if I wasn't actually in a class, but I would be in front of my computer and really trying to make sure I was spending the time that was necessary because, there's no one wants to be rushing their deadlines or feeling like you're behind or not turning in assignments because you didn't have good time management. The other thing I would say is to learn more about how you learn information best and how you can be disciplined with that, with your time, and finding the tools that help you support yourself in doing that. So for me, I use screen readers. I'm not visually impaired. I don't need a screen reader for that reason, but it really helps me when I can hear the audio being played of the article that I'm reading or I'm looking at, and it helps me stay on task when I'm hearing the audio played of whatever I'm reading at the same time I'm looking at it, because I get really distracted. So having that was really helpful. Another tip that I have is for folks who are doing discussion boards. If you get stuck with typing things out, maybe instead, use Siri or use a tool that'll allow you to dictate or speak whatever you would say in class, or like a discussion board, and that can kind of help. For me, that's another thing that would kind of hold me up sometimes, is just typing things out and getting them out onto a computer. Just sometimes, I don't know why, it just was something that was more challenging. But if I was, low on time, even just, taking a walk and dictating whatever, my notes were or something like that, that I found really helpful. So I would say just finding the tools that help you stay organized or help you stay on task can be really beneficial, and exploring those and asking questions. Ask your friends, ask other people who are successful in your classes, like what tools do they use, what tips work for them. And I think a lot of people are happy to share those. You don't have to go at the college experience by yourself. And also, the last one that I'll say, because I know some students don't always do this, but it is an option. I highly recommend going to your professor's office hours. So every professor offers what's called office hours, which is a time that you can go to meet with them and talk about either maybe your assignments, if you need supplemental information. That is a time to get to know a professor. Which is really helpful too, because some people are going to be applying for colleges, or they're going to need letters of recommendation. And one of the ways, that you can kind of get familiar with people who can maybe support you in those kind of endeavors and be a recommender or a reference for you, is getting to know your faculty, through office hours, and kind of building a relationship with them even outside of the classroom. So that way, you have somebody who's able to help support your academic journey even further.
Those are great tips, Danielle. But I want to go back when you just said, can you explain and describe people about the green screen reader? Especially, can you tell us a little more about that?
About the screen reader?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's different apps you can use. Some are even built into software that you might already use. So for instance, in the library, we have different research databases that people use. So for instance, one that a lot of people use is called ProQuest. That's one that people use. And the screen reader is actually built into that tool. So whenever you find an article, there's like a play button, and you just press play, and it'll start reading everything that's on the screen for you. Whereas there's, more accessibility type tools, like for instance in Microsoft, the operating system, they have accessibility tools that are built that you can turn on, that you can activate a screen reader, so it'll read kind of like whatever's on your computer for you. So there's different ones. I also use an app called Voice Dream. And Voice Dream allows me to upload PDFs or different documents that I want to read. And then I like that one a lot for me, because it allows me to highlight and write notes on whatever I'm reading, or actually it's reading to me, right? Because it's reading the documents. And it allows you to change also the speed. So for me, that's another place where I get distracted if something's going a little too slow. So being able to watch something at double speed or watch it at a higher rate actually helps me stay more engaged. So again, it's just kind of like you have to get to know how your brain works and work with your brain, not against your brain, to be more successful.
Those are great tips, especially you're 100% especially winning our brains, especially to be smart, especially when it comes to college right here at PCC. All right, now we go to our sixth question, Danielle, is what do you recommend for people to find better classes and study hard for their goals?
Okay, so for my recommendation for finding classes or better classes would be to reach out to your academic counselor. So your academic counselor should be able to advise you if you are needing to figure out what classes you want to take. Some students need a different kind of advice. Some students are looking for career advice, or they're looking for, like, what should I do with myself career-wise? We actually have at PCC career counselors. So that's a really valuable resource as well, as reaching out to them, and they can also kind of help guide you on maybe what degree path or what programs to consider, while then the academic counselor can tell you specifically what classes, what prereqs or prerequisites that classes you have to take before you can take the classes you later want to take. So I would highly recommend talking to the academic and career counselors to get help with that. And then what was the other half of your question?
Maybe go back to my question. And study hard for your goals.
Oh, okay. What was right before that?
Find better classes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that probably sums up what I would recommend is talking to the academic and career counselors.
My question to you is, how important is for students, especially when it comes to the counselors, and what questions should get started, especially when we get talk to the counselors to pursue a better goal in college, like PCC?
I would ask the counselor, questions having to do with, like, what is their recommended path for whatever degree plan or certificate program that you're interested in. There's certain programs or classes that don't always get taught consistently. Like, there's certain classes you can only take like once a year, right? Only in spring they teach this class. So that's a big one, I would say, is making sure the timeline fits for what your goals are. And, sometimes our goals and the timeline are not always the same, right? Sometimes we have to extend our timeline
Correct.
to reach our goals. And that's part of being committed and passionate about your academic goals,
right,
is being a little flexible if you can. But yeah, that's pretty much what I would say about that.
100% agree. And by the way, I also want to go back to career center. Especially next Friday, we will have my career center counselor Army. Especially she works here at PCC at career center. She will be here on Gary's podcast next Friday. Especially the final guest for the fourth season. Okay, so while Danielle is keeping a seat warm for her, and by the way, I almost forgot my first planner. Hi everyone. Yeah, this is Frank. I'm Gary Space, and so far I'm loving this conversation. Especially you gave me again, especially Ricky, you gave you so far great questions, and overall I love this podcast so much. Back to you, David. All right, thank you, Frank. All right, now we go to question number 7, Danielle. Especially, can you give us an update on your hip injury while you were on the podcast back in episode 8?
Yeah, and I'll keep it brief because I know we are maybe running close on time. But last time I was here, we talked about my hip injury and how that caused a lot of issues for me being able to pursue one of my passions, which is running. I love running. And so I'm doing so much better. Nice. I've been actually training more and like working more on endurance, which is like how long you can run. So I'm not a fast runner, but I do like to try and increase the length in which I can run. And so I'm kind of building myself back up, but I've gotten back to being able to run about 5 miles, which is really nice. And also, it's really been great for my health. I feel so much better. If anyone watches the video from the last one, you'll see probably a difference. Like I can see it for myself of that time frame to now. It's done a lot of good benefits. And I think it's important too for staying mentally well is to have physical activity and to go outside and, as they say, touch grass. But, physically moving your body, I think, is so important to not keeping negative emotions or negative energies kind of inside yourself. Like, I think movement is really helpful to, transmute some of that and use that energy for something else. And it's I think it's
speaking her thoughts again.
Yeah, I'm thinking my thoughts on this because there's something more I would say about it, but I don't know how I want to put my words with it. So I think I'll just leave it at that because, like I said, with time, I don't want to drag it out.
No, we just leave it at that.
Okay.
Danielle, how often you train, especially when it comes to marathons?
Well, I haven't run a marathon yet. I would like to do a half marathon, which is about 13 miles. But I would say probably at least twice a week, sometimes one, to be honest, only because I'm, working full-time here. Right. I'm in my doctoral program. And then I also teach a class at Syracuse University. So having two jobs and going to school full-time, I'm not able to train as much as I want to, but I tried for myself to honor myself and the things that I want to do for wellness. I try at least 1 to 2 times a week.
That's good. All right, now, I'm gonna say especially I said on the 4th episode, but I'm gonna say again, this is the biggest question, especially so far the 4th season of Gary's podcast. And question number 8: which library do you prefer, New York or PCC?
Okay, so that's hard because I love New York Public Library. I went there for the first time last year, and it was such an experience. Museum quality, beautiful artwork, architecture. But I'm going to go with PCC Library, Pasadena City College Library. This library changed my life. I think that the professional opportunities that I've had through working in this library and a lot of the fulfilling opportunities to serve students and support them with their information needs has really done a lot for me. And so I can't choose anything else but PCC on that one, the Pasadena City College Shatford Library.
Yes, Samuel Library here, PCC, especially, 100% agree, especially PCC Library, the best, especially we got great library.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that.
Anytime. Anything for you, Danielle. Yes, I agree, Danielle, especially PCC is the best library. So New York, especially we got great books, we got great libraries like Danielle, especially South Carolina, and we got the best library here, PCC. Yay!
Yeah, shout out Lena.
Yeah, shout out to our girl Lena. Yeah. Also our girl Ginger.
Yeah, and Ginger are 2 PCC librarians that you see at the reference desk sometimes.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, now we go to question number 9, Danielle. Is there upcoming announcements for the library you would like to announce here, exclusively on Gary's podcast?
Yeah, so in the last week of the semester for spring, finals week, we will be hosting a series of de-stress events. So please come by the library. Most of our events are going to be late morning, early afternoon. We're going to have a free coffee service. We'll be doing some crafting. We'll have some board games, some coloring, just some activities for students to enjoy and drop in to kind of de-stress from all of the finals and test taking at the end of the semester.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, especially looking forward to go to events, especially PCC, we got great events, especially in the library. And me too, I'm also looking forward to go to events, especially here at PCC, especially checking out, especially like you just said, brother, we got great events here at PCC, and looking forward to going those events, especially during finals week, and the final week of the semester PCC. Yay! All right. Let's see. Do we have time for one more question? Especially, Danielle, I remember you told me earlier that you want to ask me a question. So I'm gonna let you ask me a question. Especially, you put me on the hot seat while you give me some more.
Okay, David, are you ready?
I'm ready, Danielle. Bring the curveball.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me ask you a question, because I think even though it's your podcast, you feature other people or you talk about others, and so I think maybe your viewers want to get to know you a little bit more.
100%.
So what made you want to start a podcast?
Well, that's a great question, Danielle. What made me start a podcast is when I'm watching podcasts on YouTube, especially, I said to myself, I want to do what you're doing, especially I want to have my own podcast, especially people have great chemistry, especially could bring in guests. And I said to myself, man, I also want to bring guests. And I could say to myself, I want to launch my own podcast in Pasadena City College. And that's where I emailed James Paxton, my boss from Leslie, and when I told him, hey, James, I want to start my own podcast here at PCC, and me and James, we started talking, then from there we say, okay, we will practice here last video. Again, when I did a practice for Gary's podcast here last video, James, he loved it. Again, on November 7th, 2024, me and James, we launched Gary's podcast. It's been here in the school as we're recording it. So, and for a long time, I always want to start a podcast. Especially, I told James way back, especially I can't remember the episode from the top of my head. I told him it's been my dream to do a podcast, and now I'm living a dream, especially doing Gary's podcast, especially having you from the Girl Town Danielle, and overall, I love this podcast so much, especially working with my producer James, especially she's the best, and shouts to you, James, and as well also shouts to Ricky Jer, Gary Jer, also my friend Spranger, yay, and especially I'm doing this podcast, especially you won't find it you won't find it on other podcasts, and I love this podcast so much. Especially I love doing interviews. Especially pretty much I become the late Larry King and the late Sam Remy from Kick 25, R.I.P. Larry King and Sam Remy, and overall I love this podcast so much. Especially I love talking to people, and overall this has been a dream of mine, and I love Gary's podcast so much. Especially this has been my dream, and especially with James, I also want to thank James for giving me the opportunity. Especially I want to thank him, especially without him or James, especially my past person like Noah, Cody, I want to do this podcast, and I'm glad that I'm doing this. So especially this is the greatest podcast I ever did, and I love it so much. Thank you again for the question.
Of course, I can tell you love this podcast and your passion for it. Award-nominated podcast. Yes. So yeah, keep up the good work. Episode 41, living the dream, David.
I am. Especially one weekend when it comes to award nomination. We might get nominated again for AB Awards. Especially last year I was nominated, and we might get nominated. So I'll keep you posted on it. And Danielle, I want to thank you for being my guest for the third time. Especially this was so much fun.
Yes.
Especially having you back, especially Gary's podcast, and I want to thank you for your time, Danielle.
Thank you for having me, David.
Especially Ricky Jer, Gary Jer, you guys get a major job. Especially asking follow questions while Michelle, she's unaware. Again, Gary will assume Michelle and Ricky Jer, Gary Jer, you guys get a great job. Get good, especially guess what's a blast. Especially having you getting from the third time on Gary's podcast. And I love this. I enjoy this conversation. And I thank you, Ricky Jer. I enjoy this conversation, especially having Danielle back up for the third time on Gary's podcast while she's keeping a hot seat warm and overall, I enjoy this conversation. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for stopping by for the third time against podcast, and thank you. Especially this was a fun conversation. Oh, I got you to say something. Especially to Ricky Jr.
Oh, Ricky Jr., David Jr., thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here with both of you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Hope to see you in the library soon.
Yes, we will be in the library every time. Thank you, Ricky Jr. Danielle, we will be in the library every time. And also, me too, fan. All right, so everyone, I want to thank you for watching Gary's podcast, especially this 41 episode. And like I just mentioned, next Friday we will have our final guest of the forces, especially Army, my current show character. She will be here next Friday for the 42 episode. And again, on June, we will do the season finale of the forces of Gary's podcast, the greatest podcast ever. And everyone, thank you for watching Gary's podcast. And I'll talk to you next week right here. Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye. Bye.